Well, howdy, folks. John Pelham. I'm going to show you a few items here in this room that I'm going to be recording in today. You can see this old pedal sewing machine that my mother used 80, 90 years ago. On that are two candlesticks that we had on our mantle over our fireplace out in our old farm home. There's a ever-present kerosene lantern that we used anytime our electricity would go down. Hames for a horse that my dad used to plow the garden. Over here, an item that many of you may not recognize. It's called a chef robe. A lot of the old houses back in those days didn't have closets, and so they use these chef robes to hang clothes in. And you see hanging here is Rita's wedding dress that when we got married going on 67 years ago. Up here, a couple of old irons that they would heat to use to iron clothing. The bell off of an old telephone system, a couple of kerosene lamps that we used to go to the barn when the electricity was gone. Another lamp back here. Over here on the wall, a lot of pictures. The obligatory picture of the young boy on the horse, and many of you have that. My dad or my mother's family, various and sundry pictures of old people from our age, from our past. 2nd Infantry Division patch that I wore when I was in the service years ago. Little rocking chair that my uncle made for me when I was a very small child. That's not me in the rocking chair. That's just a doll that Rita put in it. A chair that my dad sat in the office at the lumberyard that he ran. And here's a typewriter that I used to type papers when I was in school, and probably the typewriter that Rita used to type my thesis when I got my master's degree. Another one of the lanterns that we use. These are items from my past and have to do with things that I think about when I think about growing up in the country back in those days. And I will sit down now at the desk and tell you a little bit about why I've done this. Thanks for watching. Okay, you've had a little tour of this room, and you may be wondering what that was all about. This past Sunday, Pastor Justin did a sermon that I just really related to. It was a sermon in a series that he and Pastor Austin are doing, a sermon series on the wilderness and what happens in the wilderness, literally and figuratively. And the particular segment that he was on this time was the Israelites wandering in the wilderness after they had left Egypt. And they'd been out there for a long, long time, and they were, as you might expect, hungry and tired and upset, and they really wanted to go back to where they were. And so we're talking about returning to the past. Exodus 16, 1 and 2, on the 15th day of the 2nd month after they had come out of Egypt, in the desert, the whole community grumbled against Moses and Aaron. The Israelites said to them, "If only we had died by the Lord's hand in Egypt, There we sat around pots of meat and ate all the food we wanted. But you brought us out here into this desert to starve this entire assembly to death. In Numbers 11, the rabble with them began to crave other food, and against the Israelites, they started wailing and said, "If only we had meat to eat. We remember the fish we ate in Egypt at no cost. Also the cucumbers, the melons, the leeks, the onions, and garlic. But now we've lost our appetite. We never see anything but this manna." They were hungry for their customary food, and they were tired of wandering in the wilderness, and they wanted to go back to the past lives, probably forgetting that back then their lives were pretty horrible. So Justin says, if you follow the past too far, it'll shipwreck you in a two-step process. First, going back or looking back convinces you that it was more beautiful than it actually was. Rose-colored glasses soften rough edges and hide the complexity of what it was. Step two is even more problematic. In trying to live in that perceived, remembered reality, you miss out on living in the potential that God has given you to live in the present and plan for the future. Now, the reason why this resonates with me so much is a lot of my poetry, as some of you may know, deals with my kind of autobiographical. And a lot of them deal with going back and looking at how my life was back when I was a kid on a farm outside the little town of Whitney. Poems like When Mom and Daddy Sold the Farm talks about growing up on that farm and the bucolic existence that we had, that I thought that I look back through these 70 plus years and think about. The lights are flickering. Well, as I said earlier, we didn't necessarily have good electricity, and so we had to use these lamps that I showed you a lot. Saucered and blowed. My dad drank coffee, but he never drank it straight out of the cup. He would, because it was too hot, and he would pour it in a saucer and blow on it a little bit and cool it off, and then he'd drink it. Milking. I was the family milker, and lots of fun things came out of that. Some not so fun. Hey, Balin. If you look in this little book that I've got, it just is full of my reminiscences of growing up on the farm back in those days, and they paint a very glowing picture of what it's like. But I could never see myself harboring a desire to live there and go there again. Along with the good parts, and that's kind of what we remember when we think about the past. We kind of gloss over some of the things that weren't so good. Milking was a chore, and I didn't like it back then. It's fun to write about it now, but I didn't like it back then. Growing up in the 40s and 50s on a little old dirt farm wasn't much fun, just to be honest with you. It was a melancholy but very hard life. Lack of the many labor and body-saving devices and procedures that we have today. I had zero interaction with any culturally different people. I was really ignorant of the plight of people of color who lived around me. So as I'll think back about the really nice parts of the past that I would really love to experience again, I wouldn't want to go back to the negative parts of it at all. What they've done is given me opportunities to share my poetry with folks in many events that I've done around the state and many parts of the country. It's given me opportunities to meet and create many wonderful and enduring friendships. And it's given me, as I've thought about it, the knowledge and philosophy of life that stayed with me through life and informs my life going forward. I wouldn't take anything for it, but I wouldn't go back. It was a great message from Pastor Justin. Great advice to any of us who long for the life as it was and long to return to it. Thanks for being with us today, folks. It's been an interesting time for me, and I thoroughly enjoyed the message. And if you have a chance, look it up on either Facebook or on the church website and listen to the sermon yourself. I think you'll be enriched by the sermon, and a couple of stories that he told with it will warm your heart. Thanks for being with us. Look forward to being with you next time. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.